Hi everyone, welcome to Further Maths Units 3 and 4. So today I'll be going through the first dot point in the Further Maths study design, which reviews the types of data that are in the course. So data, essentially, you don't need to know what it is, but it's essentially a collection of facts and statistics which can be used for analysis, which depends on their individual characteristics. They could be used because of their quantity. So if we have a large amount of data, it could be very useful, or their quality. So if we need to know specific details, then those data will tell us what those details are. So data can be split into two sort of main categories. The first one we're going to talk about is numerical data. Now, numerical data, technically speaking, is the quantity of data. So how many things they are, how many people in a classroom, or how many cars there are in a car park. What I like to think of it as is just simply, if it can be expressed in numbers, then 90% of the time it will be a numerical data. Now, I say that because there are a few specific examples that won't, that it's a number, but it's not necessarily a numerical data, and you will see what I mean later through the video. So an example of numerical data could be number of people, a classroom, or the height of those people. Now, those two are examples of what I'll go on to as being the two sort of subcategories of numerical data. So within numerical data, there are discrete data and there are continuous data. Now, the difference between them, I like to say that discrete data is countable. Discrete data is countable. You can count the amount of things. So things like, first example, numbers of students in a classroom, you can count that there's 5 students, 10 students, 20 students, etc. The second one is continuous data. And continuous data, I like to say that it is measurable. I say that because something that is measurable is not necessarily countable. So you can't really count sort of counting as a form of measurement. Like, you can measure the length of a piece of string, but you can't count the length of a piece of string, if that makes sense. So anything that you can count one by one will be a discrete data, and anything that you have to physically measure with some sort of units, I generally like to say that they are continuous. Another sort of rule of thumb, I guess, I'll put it over here. So a rule of, So a rule of thumb, it doesn't always work, however, it works enough of the time to get you through the course, is that if it's a whole number, then generally speaking, it is discrete. If there are decimal places, it is normally continuous. Obviously, that doesn't work all the time, but intuitively, you're not going to count in the number of students in the classroom. You're not going to count 2.5 students, or 3 and 3.25 students, etc. But when you measure something such as the height of a student, you'll frequently get 175.23 centimeters as a height. Rarely you're going to get sort of 175, 176 all the way through. So for the majority of the data, if it is a whole number, so if you have a set of 100 pieces of information and they're mostly whole numbers, then you can probably safely say that it is a set of discrete data, whereas if it's full of decimal places, then it's probably more a form of continuous numerical data. So an example given, which the number of people in a classroom will be a discrete data, but the height of those people will be continuous data. Now, so that is for numerical data. The other one that is a form of data, so the other category of a data is categorical data. Now, categorical data, by the name it sounds, is categories. Essentially, it is putting things into categories. More technically speaking, it is the quality or qualities that a certain piece of data holds. So if, for example, colors of cars, cars are red, green, blue. So those are specific qualities or characteristics that sort of define what that thing is, but you are separating them by that category, if that makes sense. So an example would be, say, color. You have red, green, blue. So those are sort of, each category, you can say that they are red cars, they are green cars, they are blue cars. Now, what you can't do with these is order them to say that a red car is better than a green car, which is better than a blue car. It just doesn't make sense. They are just independent categories. They don't have any relationship with each other. A red car is just a red car. A red car is not a red car which is better than a blue car, which brings me to the subcategories of categorical data. So first of them is nominal data. So nominal data is just, there's no word to sort of describe it. It's just random data. It's just data that's been separated into categories. I think in contrast, ordinal data is something that can be ordered or placed into an order. So if you say the sort of color of cars, you can have red, you can have blue, you can have green. Yeah. However I write these in order, it doesn't make any difference. So I can put green car first. I can have green, blue, red cars. I can have blue, red, green cars. It doesn't make any difference to the actual data, no matter how I write them, which in this case they will be nominal. Now for ordinal data, it has to actually be in some sort of order. The difference being compared to discrete data is that discrete data, you can order them in a way that, one classroom you can have 10 people, one classroom you can have 20 people, one classroom you can have 30 people, so it gradually goes up in numbers. But the ordinal data is different, is that the difference being it is categories that can be ordered. For example, an example would be the size of cars. So you can have small cars, you can have medium cars, or you can have large cars. Yeah, so they're the different sizes of cars. Now, it's ordinal data because it doesn't matter which way I order them. So I can say that small data, so there are small cars, medium cars, and large cars. So small cars are smaller than a medium car, and medium cars are smaller than a large car. So we can say that the order of this data can flow this way. Or we can say that it can go the opposite way, and we can say that a large car is larger than a medium car, and a medium car is larger than a small car. But we can't it wouldn't make any sense for me to write these as medium, small, large, because there's no, logically speaking, you will order it from small, medium to large. So you do have to use some sort of logic and common sense when dealing with data. It's not, even though they are facts and statistics, how you interpret them a lot of time will require a lot of common sense, and you will find that to be quite the truth when we get into more of the analyzing using different sorts of graphs and sort of visual representations. Now, I know I said that with numerical data that generally you can tell by the fact that it's a number. The case that where it may not be true is house numbers. So this is an example that I came across where it might seem like a sort of numerical data, but in actual fact, it is not. So I really wanted to make a point to this. So first of all, house numbers, what sort of data is it? First instinct might be that it's numerical data, but it's actually a categorical data, and it's actually a nominal data. And why do I say that? So house number itself is different to the number of houses. So if I walk down into a street, I can count. If I can count and say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses on this street. In that case, that number 8 will be a numerical data and it will be a discrete data. Yeah, remember we said that discrete data is countable, so I can count how many houses are on this street. But if I go into the street and I say, there's house number 8, then I haven't counted everything, I've just stated a fact that that house is number 8. And remember that we said categorical data is quality or the characteristics or some sort of category that separate one thing from another. So when we say that that house is number 8, we are saying that the number 8 is a characteristic that describes the house. So in this case, if the house number was number 10, then it will be a completely different house. It wouldn't be the same house. So there's a specific characteristic to it, and therefore it's a categorical data. So once we've got that worked out, we need to know, is it ordinal or is it actually nominal? Well, think of it this way. Can you order a house simply by its number? So can you say that house number 10 is better than house number 11 because it has a smaller number? Logically, that doesn't make sense, right? You'll have to look at other characteristics like how big is the land or how nicely is the house built. So in that case, you may be able to order them, but it will not be based on the house number. So since it is not based on the house number, then it is not ordinal. There's no logical way to order the houses by the house number. So this is just one of the more sort of tricky, I guess, more of the tricky questions that you may be able to get on the exam, which in the past exams I have seen a question asking about postcodes. So, what sort of data is postcodes? Yes, it's numbers, but is it a numerical data? So this is a question for you to think about. It has come up on past exams, and generally speaking, data is sort of the first couple of questions. So just sort of a definition of data or a recognition of, what sort of data is this situation. And they're generally multiple choice 1 or 2. Sometimes there are 2, sometimes they just chuck 1 question. But understanding what the different types of data are and what distinguishes them is the key to understanding all of this. So that's all for this topic. So next topic, we're going to talk about how to display these sort of data, more specifically displaying the categorical data in a bar chart and also a frequency table. So that's all for today, and thank you for watching.